What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Sniper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, then we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10 and either build them or fix them depending on how they rank. Now today we finish up our talks on one of the worst subclasses that we have covered on this channel, and that is the Way of the Four Elements Monk. We are going to fix it hopefully today, and I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited to see what I have done to hopefully bring this from the absolute depths of despair to maybe something that might be worth using at your table. I don't know. But before we do that, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. As you can see, most people who watch the channel are not subscribed, so please don't be one of those people. Help us to reach our goal of 5,000 by the end of this year. I think we can do it, but I need your help. One of the best ways, of course, to do that is share the video with your friends, and of course, click the bell so you're notified when new videos are uploaded. Tuesday's video, of course, went into our ranking of this subclass, and that, of course, will be up in the icon above right there, and it did not do well. It ranked really, really poorly and needs a lot of help in order to make this worth using. And so, of course, if you would like a typed out guide to all of my fixes to any subclass that I've done on the channel and all of my build guides that I do as well, those, of course, can be obtained by becoming a member of the channel. By clicking that join button down below, just for $2 a month gets you all of these write-ups. And of course, there are higher tiers as well if you want to support the channel a little bit more. That is by no means required, and it's also by no means expected, but I just wanted to give a little way for you all to be able to support that and to be able to get something awesome in return. I also want to take a second to thank all of our silver or gold members. Those names will of course be up on the screen right now. And so yes, thank you so much for your above and beyond donation. It is more than enough, and I am so thankful to all of you for doing that. With that out of the way, let's see what we have done to hopefully fix this subclass. So jumping right in at level 3. So originally there was only one feature and you just gained more parts of it as you leveled up. And I guess that way of doing things is okay when it comes to something like this, and I've seen several fixes online that do things like this. They just kind of double the number of your actual options that you get, which is fine. I still think that that's not enough. And I just think that it's too much having to spend key every time that I want to use one of these spells. I just think that's too much of a precious resource that we have to throw out the window. There are so many other subclasses that give us these passive abilities that we don't have to spend key on that are really, really powerful. And so I wanted to do something a little bit different. I will talk briefly about what I originally had for this build. It was originally a separate type of key system where I did something similar to the, double the options and all that stuff, but you actually had a separate key pool that I called the elemental key. And so you basically had a number of key points equal to your normal key points, and you could spend those to cast spells, basically the same way that it used to be. But of course, and then those keys would not be able to mix with each other and that sort of thing. But I felt like that was a little confusing and a little convoluted. And so I think that the way that we've gone with today is a little bit more elegant and allows us to make it a little bit more easily understood in that sense. And you'll see what I mean as we jump in. So at level 3, we're going to start by picking out 3 features. Number 1, we are going to get elemental attunement. Now we already got this, and this is almost unchanged. Basically, I buffed it to where it's prestidigitation plus the other things that were not included in the normal prestidigitation spell in the original version. So basically we get a better prestidigitation and we get the buffed range that the other one had. So either way, I don't think that this is anything crazy. It's a really good cantrip, yes, but it's nothing busted. So we're not blowing any minds just yet. Prestidigitation's a good cantrip, but tons of people get it. So we'll have to keep moving before we get something that's actually amazing. So number 2, we get spellcasting. Yes, we are going with the spellcasting route on this subclass, and this is something that I don't see online. I see so many people taking the simple route of just basically doubling the number of actual disciplines that you get and then reducing their cost by 1. That is the simple way to do it. But since when have I ever taken the simple route? I always make things way more complicated than they need to be, and this is no exception. So we have gone with spellcasting, and so this is essentially our extra key in the form of spell slots. And so I think that this is going to help us a lot with the prospect of multi-classing. I think it just makes it a lot more cohesive with just the game in general. And plus, there are two other subclasses in the game that kind of model this. And so this is going to be a 1/3 caster, similar to the Eldritch Knight or the Arcane Trickster Rogue. So either way, this is pretty cool. So we're going to get, of course, up to 4th level spells. We're going to get 13 spells plus an additional one that we're going to get through a feature. So we're going to have quite a few spells. That's better than that doubled number of 8. And I really think that we deserve that. So I really think that we're finally getting enough here to where it's worth it. It will follow the same spell slot progression as what you're used to with either of those subclasses, so nothing new there. And this is the only thing that's really new, is the new spell list. So I basically had to make a new spell list because just doing the wizard spell list or just doing whatever wouldn't really work with this type of thing. And so it has to be a custom spell list for this subclass, which really isn't that bad. There really isn't anything on here that's really shocking, but there are a lot of really good spells on here as well. Haste, of course, can be, you've got a wind that's going behind you. Same thing with like jump. I tried to be creative with those certain things. The only weird thing, I guess, about this is the unique spells that we've brought over from that original subclass: the Fangs of the Fire Snake, Fists of Unbroken Air, Shape the Flowing River, and Water Whip. All of those are basically unchanged. They've just been converted to 1st level spells, and so we can access those just as we could any other spell, just by spending a spell slot. The only thing that's a little bit different with this is that in order to upcast spells, we actually have to spend ki. And this is where I wanted ki to be involved. I didn't want us to spend ki every time that we cast a spell. The only time we have to spend ki now is if we upcast a spell. So you can go a whole day, spend all your spell slots, and never spend a ki on your spell casting. You can save all of that for your stunning strikes, for your Step of the Winds, for all of that good stuff. And I think that's really the way that it should be. However, if you want to upcast this, yes, it's a little bit of a nerf to the actual system, but I really think that it's worth it. I think it keeps the system honest, and there are, of course, some other really interesting benefits that go along with this. And so I think that it's actually worth it to do it like this. So pretty cool. I think that doing it this way is actually really nice. Of course, it is going to use our wisdom, but just like what we're used to with Monk. And so we're not going to be nearly as mad as some other things. So we can really focus on our wisdom here and then focus on our dexterity, but we were already using wisdom, so it really doesn't matter. And finally, at level 3, we're going to get elemental arts. And so with this, whenever we cast a cantrip, we actually can go ahead and still use our martial arts feature to either make an unarmed strike, or we can also use our flurry of blows, Step of the Wind, or patient defense, of course, spending any appropriate ki that need to be spent in that case. That's all for level 3. That's a lot at level 3, but honestly, I think we need to be kind of front loaded in order to get all of this set up. I considered putting the elemental arts later at level 6, but I just think that we need to just go ahead and get that out of the way right now, because it's only the monk cantrips. It's not like we can do any cantrips, so there's not going to be any kind of like Eldritch Blast and then do this. It does have to count specifically for this subclass, so that's a little different, but I think it's fine. At level 6, though, we get Elemental Burst, and this is pretty cool. This is actually kind of similar to what the Sun Soul monk gets, but in a much less restrictive way than what Sun Soul gets. And so with this, we can actually channel our ki and cast a spell at a higher level than what we actually have spell slots for. And this is kind of where the old version comes in. So we can cast a spell one level above whatever our highest available spell slot is, and we can spend ki according to the number of ki equal to the spell slot level plus 1. So we can, of course, if we want to take Burning Hands and cast it at 2nd level, we would just spend 2 ki points. So 1 for the 1st level spell, and then 2 for that upcast. So basically the same number as whatever level we are casting it at. So that's pretty cool. And we can do that once per day. So I think that if we did this a bunch, that could get out of hand. But it still costs us ki. And so I think that could be interesting, but we can of course cast a 4th level spell up to a 5th level spell once we get access to that at level 19. And so I really think that that's fine if we do that once per day. I really don't see the problem. I don't think that's all that busted. At level 11, we're going to get a couple of things as part of Elemental Fortitude. And so we've learned how to dish it out. Now we've got to figure out how to be able to take it. And so whenever we finish a long rest, we can choose one of the 4 different types of damage that associate with each of these elements. We can, of course, choose fire, cold, bludgeoning, or thunder. Now you might be thinking, bludgeoning, why does that go with earth? Well, actually, if you take a look at each of the genies represented in the Genie Warlock, each of those actually represent the same types of elements that we actually are meaning to harness, which could be an interesting flavor and a way to kind of D&D-ify this, is make that you are actually meditating under maybe a genie, which is kind of cool. I think that could be an interesting flavor. But you basically choose one of those and you get resistance to that damage type all day. And then of course you can swap that out every single day, every time that you take a long rest, which I think is cool. I think that these can be really useful, but they are ultimately somewhat situational. And so being able to swap them out every day, I think is pretty cool. And then finally with this, we can actually regain some spell slots here. And so with this, we can roll a d4 if we take an hour to meditate, which can be at the same time as we take a short rest. And we can use that to regain spell slots of a level equal to whatever we roll on that die. So if we roll a 1, we can get back 1 first level spell slot. If we rolled a 3, we could get back a first and a second level spell slot, or 1 third level spell slot, 3 first level spell slots, whatever. We cannot go above whatever our normal maximum would be. We just can regain expended ones. So that's the only thing about that. But I still think that that's pretty cool. And I think that that's really, really nice to be able to help us to be able to get these things back. We of course get ki back on a short rest already. And so this just kind of coincides with that. But I definitely can't have us getting back all of our spell slots on a short rest. That's a little much. And so that's why this is restricted to just once per day. You have to finish a long rest before you can do that again. Finally, level 17, we get our final feature, and that is Elemental Ally, and we get access to the Summon Elemental spell. It is going to always be ready for us to cast at any time, and we can cast it once a day for free without material components or expending a spell slot. And if we want to cast it again, we can spend 4 ki points in order to do so. This, of course, would still fall under our Elemental Burst, so we could upcast this and spend 5 ki points if we wanted to, because it is a 4th level spell. So that could be a thing that if you wanted to do that. I probably wouldn't. You don't get nearly as much out of casting it at level 5 as you do at level 6. And we of course aren't able to do that on this subclass, but that is something that you could do if you wanted to. So that's our fix. Of course, if you want this printout guide, this will be, of course, available for you by joining the channel. But I want to know what you think. I think that this is really, really cool. And I think that this is a much better version of this subclass. Yeah, it's more complex than the other one, but I mean, simplicity did not win the day with the original. This version took me several days to actually get ready. And so I'm really hoping that you guys really like this. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to actually be able to use. And so your feedback down below is going to be absolutely amazing. Next week, we're going to pull out all the weapons and look at the Way of the Kensei Monk. I'm really excited to be talking about that one. And if you are as well, again, make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss that. Until then, stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.